Hi everyone, this is Yvonne and thank you for joining me for this second screencast. The focus of this screencast is on primary health care and actually differentiating between primary health care and primary care. I'm just going to advance the slide. So here's the learning outcome. So we're going to differentiate between these two terms and identify the two values that underpin primary health care and list and describe the 5 principles of primary health care. So before we get started in here, please read the following poem. It's called The Ambulance Down in the Valley, and it's posted in Meskinus. And it's a poem written many, many years ago by Joseph Malins. And it talks about a town that had engaged in a very bitter debate about the best way to deal with the problem they had. And the problem was that people were falling off this high cliff above the city, and they would get injured badly. And they were kind of disputing about what they should do about these problems and how their funds should be spent. Should they continue to allow people to fall off the top of the cliff and will provide, more ambulances would be available to take them away to the hospital? Or should they consider putting maybe a fence up at the top of the cliff to prevent people from falling down in the first place? All right, so as you read this poem, or after you read this poem, think about the element of the poem that represents acute medical care, and what level of care would that be? Think about reduction of risk factors, and in the context of the poem and the seriousness of the injuries, how can this be reduced, this problem that they had? And how do you think social determinants of health are related to this topic? All right, so the ambulance at the bottom of the cliff, when we think about that, so people are falling off the cliff and they're injured, and people in the village were, quite happy that there were lots of ambulances available at the bottom of the cliff in the valley to speed away these injured people to quality care to the hospital. So they were basically happy that, there were healthcare services provided, and that this is the way we would just continue with solving this problem. Just make sure we have enough ambulances available to whiz people off to the hospital once they end up at the bottom of the cliff, all injured and smashed up. The other thing that's you can consider about this poem is, maybe if there was something halfway down the bottom of the cliff, like a net or a trampoline, then they wouldn't fall all the way down to the bottom of the cliff, but which would reduce the type of injuries, and maybe they would kind of get back to the top, and again they would continue, but having something halfway down might be helpful because it would reduce the intensity of the injury. Or another solution maybe could be to put the fence at the top of the cliff. All right, and another one would be moving the population away from the edge of the cliff to begin with. All right, so what I've mentioned is really levels of health prevention. All right, so you can see there's primary, secondary, and tertiary. And then there's a text box that says addressing the social determinants of health. The focus is on community risk. All right, so we can match these. All right, primary prevention is an example would be the fence at the top of the cliff. All right, so let's put the fence at the top of the cliff to prevent people from falling off in the first place. Okay, I'm just going to put the other ones up here. Secondary prevention would be, okay, what can we do to reduce the seriousness of the injuries? So maybe they want to put a net or a trampoline halfway down. The tertiary prevention is having that ambulance at the bottom of the cliff ready to take people who have fallen off and who become very injured or near death. Let's take them to the hospital and make sure there is enough ambulances there. Or another approach is addressing the social determinants of health and focusing on the community at risk and maybe moving the population away from the edge of the cliff. So, why not? Let's do that. Okay. All right. So let's move on. So the ambulance down in the valley again. I hope you enjoyed that clip. All right. So it's important to have the ambulance on call and to build a strong fence, but maybe the most health resources should be actually devoted to moving the community away from the edge of the cliff. All right, so sometimes this poem is associated with primary health care and the Alma Ata Conference, the Alma Ata Declaration that we talked about at in another lecture. All right, so remember the Alma Ata Declaration came out in 1978, and it was an international conference in Alma Ata, formerly in the USSR. There were representatives from 189 countries. They gathered and they committed themselves and their resources to the achievement of health for all by the year 2000 through primary health care. So primary health care was first described in this landmark document, and the motto was Health for All. The document actually outlines an intersectoral and community-driven approach to improving health and reducing inequities in health. The guidelines have been developed to improve health programming and policy development as well. And it's an important instrument for making governments, and their partners recognize that the provision of health care cannot be left to health professionals alone. All right, so again, why did they want to get together and why was this such an important thing? Well, there was this recognition that, maybe things aren't going that well. We're not able to manage to have enough hospitals and to kind of focus on an illness sort of way of dealing with things, or rather than responding that way to issues in our healthcare system and to things that happen to people, we need to look at another innovative way of creating a system of healthcare that will better improve the overall health of everyone worldwide. So this Alma Ata Declaration was a response on the part of the World Health Organization to address the issues of unjust suffering and death that was and is occurring worldwide, especially in the poorer countries. So primary health care is a philosophy, a model for improving health that focuses on promoting health and wellness and preventing illness. So the attention is primarily on aspects of people's lives that make them sick. And this is from the Canadian Nurses Association, 2003. So there are two distinct values associated with primary health care, and those are social justice and equity. So here's a good definition of social justice: the fair distribution of society's benefits, responsibilities, and their consequences. It focuses on the relative position of one social group in relationship to others in society, as well as on the root causes of disparities and what can be done to eliminate them. So the goal is building community capacity to achieve sustainable health and well-being. So these values, social justice, is we're looking at the health of the entire population. So the extent that our society provides opportunities for citizens to develop socially and economically productive roles that influences not only the well-being of individuals, but the health of the entire population. And the other value is equity, means that people's needs guide the distribution of opportunities for well-being. And there's this fair distribution of resources and access within and among various population. So this value equity again, includes reducing discrimination in access to health services. So primary health care, this approach conceptualizes health as a fundamental right. There's an individual and collective responsibility involved. Primary health care involved in that is equal opportunity concept and is an essential component of our socioeconomic development. So primary health care, although treating existing illness is part of primary health care, attention is primarily on healthy people. So this is sometimes referred to as an upstream focus on health and wellness. Primary health care principles, there's 5 of these. And so you can see that there's an overlap here with some of the other things we've already discussed in this course. We can see elements of the Canada Health Act, like accessibility, public participation. We can see elements of the Ottawa Charter here as well. So primary health care versus primary care. So here primary care is the primary management of a person's condition, the first level of contact an individual has with an organized health system. So here we can look at both of these, the primary health care versus primary care. If you look at the bullets under primary care, you can see that those kind of align or overlap to some of the things we talked about, the medical model of care. All right, so primary care, there's more of an emphasis on the individual, an emphasis on cure, whereas primary health care is focused on the community, a focus on promotion and prevention. When we look at primary care on your left, care is provided by health professionals, whereas again, in primary health care on your right, it's provided by a wide variety of people. Primary care on your left, there's this idea of professional dominance, whereas in primary health care, we're looking at more this self-reliance. People are taking more responsibility for their care, and the community is taking responsibility for care as well. All right, so those are the primary distinctions between primary health care and primary care. All right, we'll have one more screencast associated with this lecture. Thank you for listening.